All right, good morning, everybody. We are here today, Wednesday, April 19th, and we're picking up testimony on S-103, which is an act relating to amending the prohibitions against discrimination. We took some pretty thick testimony yesterday, or opinions on the bill, and the legal ramifications were talked about, and we want to continue having the conversation with, first up on today's list, we have Carrie Brown. So Carrie, if you could join us. After the floor today, we're going to talk about the proposal or the draft of a proposal on the eviction diversion program. And then we will also hear, and then we'll probably have a bit of a break. I'm not sure that Vermont Legal Aid will need 2 hours or however long we have. And then we're going to hear testimony on H21, which is about related to landlord notice of utility disconnections. So, and then tomorrow is a reminder, plan for a long day on the floor tomorrow afternoon and possibly Friday morning. We have two big bills coming up that will probably engage all of us for quite a time. So with that, welcome, Carrie. You've been here before, but I'm going to go around the circle again for the benefit of Karen. Karen, how are you? And we're just going to, Karen, this is a completely different, mostly different committee than the last time you were here last year. So we just want to introduce ourselves to you freshly. And I'll start with Representative Tom Stevens from the Washington Chittenden District.
Sadia Lamont in the Washington District.
Joe Parsons, I represent Broughton, Topsom, and Newberry.
Ashley Bartley, I represent Fairfax in Georgia.
Dennis LaBounty, Linden, Newark, Sutton, Sheffield, Wheelock.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Burrows, and I represent Heartland, West Windsor, and Windsor.
Good morning. I'm Larry Laver. I represent Essex, Orleans, District 1.
Robin Chestnut.
Tangermer. No, I can't say. Hi,
I'm Robin Chestnut Tangerman from Rutland Bennington District. Thank you.
So welcome, Carrie. You reintroduce yourself and let us know what you think about 103. You've been working on this alongside of us for, I believe, 2 previous bienniums. And so we appreciate your testimony.
Thank you very much. For the record, I'm Carrie Brown. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Commission on Women. The Commission on Women is a state agency that was formed to address matters of concern to women. And we've been working on that for decades now, and pay equity has been at the top of our list since our founding over 50 years ago. One of these days we'll be able to cross it off the list, maybe, but not yet. So our concerns are with, of course, what's happening for women in the workplace and equity for women in the workplace, but they're not limited to that. And so we recognize that equity is an all-encompassing issue, that we can't just talk about equity for women without talking about equity for everybody. And so this bill is a very, very high priority for us. Really appreciate you taking it up and spending so much serious, thoughtful time on it, because this has the potential to make a really dramatic difference in people's lives as they're trying to hold down a job and live the rest of their lives and have a happy, healthy balance of everything. So our, as I say, we are very focused on what's going on with women. So we know that there's a huge wage disparity between women and men in general. And a big part of that is due to the challenges that women often face at work in terms of harassment and discrimination. But when we're talking about wage disparities, we can't just stop there. So it's women are making less money than men. Women of color are making even less money than that. People with disabilities are making less money than people without disabilities, but women living with disabilities are making even less than that. And so there are various degrees, and as you heard in some testimony yesterday, you can't pull apart these different characteristics in people's identities and people's experiences. and their lives. And so we have to really look at them all together. And so the fact that a Black woman may be getting paid less at work isn't solely because she's Black, isn't solely because she's a woman. There are, these combination of things. And so one of the things that this bill does is start to really recognize that in a much more effective way legally. So I'm just going to address the three main components of the bill. I won't talk about all of them in great depth, but the first one that I want to mention is the change to the Equal Pay Law, which currently covers pay disparities on the basis of sex, and this would expand it to race, national origin, and disability as well. And this is a very good idea because these are all characteristics that people have that they may face unintentional and yet structural barriers to pay equity in the workplace. And so the Equal Pay Law is a little bit different from the other part of the law preventing discrimination at work. The Equal Pay Law, as you've already heard, does not require an intent to discriminate. It can be because a system has been set up that results in women being paid less, results in people of color being paid less. And so this change to the law would offer some enhanced protection and would be a great strengthening for them. So we're very much in favor of that one. And as you heard yesterday, other states are looking at this as well and starting to make these changes. So the one of the exciting parts of this bill, and one of the most important ones, I would say, is that addressing the standard of severe or pervasive in cases of harassment and discrimination. And you've already heard a lot about that, but I will just emphasize that this is a standard that has come down through the courts. It has often been mistermed as severe and pervasive, and there's a very big difference between the words or and, right? And so it's murky, it's subjective, it is not the right standard. It does not do the job. It doesn't capture the many of the conditions that people are facing at work, many of the situations that you or I would hear a description of and think, well, that sounds terrible, that shouldn't be allowed at work. And yet this standard of severe or pervasive doesn't capture a lot of those. It just doesn't cover them. And so this standard needs to be changed to come up with something that is less subjective, that more accurately describes what people are actually experiencing. And what this bill does is it says that's not the standard, but then it also replaces it with something that's a lot clearer. So in this bill, there is a definition of harassment. And so it is, there's always still going to be some subjectivity, of course, but this is less subjective. It makes it clearer, makes it clear that it's unwelcome conduct based on a person's membership in a protected class, that it interferes with a person's work or creates a hostile work environment, that it does not require that someone can't do their job. So you may be experiencing harassment, but you're trekking on through and you're continuing to do a really good job. And that doesn't work against you, it can still be harassment. Even if the employee kind of went along with it because maybe they felt like, I'm not really sure what's going on here, I don't want to get fired, so they may have acquiesced, still can be considered harassment. It considers the totality of the circumstances, so it's looking at the whole of the record. So as I was talking about before, and as you heard from Bor Yang yesterday, somebody could be experiencing harassment based on multiple characteristics, all kind of working together. And so this would allow the courts to look at what's happening to somebody, what's the full record, what are all the things that have happened, rather than looking at each instance, rather than trying to parse out, oh, this is because you're a woman, oh, this is because you're Hispanic. And instead look at all of it together, which much more accurately reflects how things actually work out in people's lives. And then it also doesn't include behavior that a reasonable person with the same characteristic would find to be a petty annoyance or a trivial slight. And so again, that's a little bit of a subjective standard, but it does give some guidance for where that line falls. So this would make, I mean, we hear a lot of stories from people who call us and tell us about harassment that they're facing at work. Largely we hear about sexual harassment, because that's mostly who's calling us, but other kinds as well, many of which would not fall under that severe or pervasive definition. and they are not they're not left with another recourse. So this would give some strength to people who are facing these kinds of conditions, would give them a way to feel that perhaps they will report it. Because we often hear a lot of people say, I'm not even going to bother reporting this, or maybe I mentioned it one time and it was ignored and I'm just going to drop it. It's not worth it. I'm doing my job. And 80% of women who experience sexual harassment end up leaving their job within 2 years. That is the standard way that people have for dealing with harassment, is to just say, never mind, I'm leaving. And, you know, that's never okay. Particularly now as employers are facing workforce shortages, we want people to be able to stay at their jobs. We want people to be able to not have to face intolerable conditions at their jobs and feel like the only way they have to deal with it is just to leave. So this really ties right into the third part of this bill, which is that prohibition on the no rehire clauses. So as you heard yesterday, this is something that we already have in place for cases of sexual harassment. So if you are a victim of sexual harassment and you settle with your employer, they cannot include a clause in there that says you'll never work for us again. So this is really good because it recognizes that the person who's bringing the claim, the person who experienced the harassment, is not the problem employee. They are the ones who have a problem that needs to be solved. But very often in this process, they're made to feel like they're a problem. The employer needs to get rid of them to get rid of the problem. And so this helps to address that a little bit. What this bill does is it simply brings the rest of the law to be consistent with what we already have. So if you experience sexual harassment, you have this protection. If you experience harassment based on some other characteristic, you don't have this protection. And there's absolutely no defensible reason for one to be true and not the other. They need to go together. The Equal Opportunity Commission already describes these kinds of clauses as retaliatory and discourages them. They generally often have the effect of people feeling like I brought a problem up, I tried to solve it, and I got punished for it. Yes. Yeah. Or are you losing the quorum?
We're going to lose the quorum, but we're going to are you comfortable with us finding the seventh person for the quorum? Yes. Thank you. We need to pause.
Okay, no problem.
And Ron, we need to go offline.
Oh, not a quorum person,
You've been anointed.
right?
That exactly in time.
New
Yeah.
honorary member of the committee.